And we're back with some more oxygen not included. And yeah, we're just doing a bit of an update on this map and maybe a little bit of tidy up before we put it to bed. This has been the best water tank ever. Just look at that. So much water. Over here, I gotta do something about this. Right now, I realize I'm still just pouring hot water in here. I need to have that hot water go off into the vacuum of space so that we can let the rest of the map freeze properly, which is going to be a little bit hard. Okay, yeah. What's supposed to happen was we pump water from down here. That water goes all the way over here and up to the top and gets dropped off. Not so much anymore. It's now kind of getting. Yep, I'll fix that later. But what was happening was that water was then sort of flowing down and across here and then back through again. So we were kind of having this circulation system going on. But that kind of broke down somewhere around here. Yeah, I'm not. It still worked out better than using temperature shift plates. I've frozen the core of a planet once before, and even if you freeze the water to minus 200 degrees, the chill just would take forever to spread out. This way, we managed to get everything. Well, okay, it's 0 degrees down here pretty much. And in most of the places, we've got it down to just under 30 degrees, except for this one core in the middle, which has been problematic, and where we're putting in the fresh water. But let's take care of a few little side projects. One was I tried to make sure that every area was cooled down to, well, freezing point, so that it would not inject heat into the system. Or I made sure there was vacuum seals in areas to prevent heat leaking out of the system, like say for the petroleum boiler and the geothermal heat pumps. Like these areas over here are vacuum or they're frozen. The only place I couldn't do this was with the carbon dioxide burping machine. This one here, it's just going to be hot. It produces ethanol and CO2 and all that, and maybe I should have put insulated tiles around it, but this way it actually keeps it cool. I was worried it might actually overheat, but since it's technically sitting in the middle of a whole bunch of water, I don't think it can anymore. All right, with all of that done, though, there was one thing that annoyed the bejesus out of me. Here we go. Self-contained systems. These are artifacts that follow this guy. They're one of the best ones, I believe, like plus 80 decor, and 3 of them ended up getting dropped in here. And there's no way to get them out from the inside because well, you can't. If we try and go in here, the water will crush the whole system and burst in here. And we can't get them from the inside because if we try going in from the inside, we'll let loose all of that carbon dioxide and break the vacuum seal. The only reason there's actually a vacuum seal in this whole area is that, well, renovations. Like if we want to break into one of these sections here, we can just put down a square block, put down a blob of naphtha, and then we can work our way in, and we don't have to worry about heat being exchanged between the atmosphere and the inside and the outside, droplets forming, that type of stuff. So keeping it in a vacuum has been quite useful. But what we can do here is turn this place into a vacuum. And I thought I just demonstrated because I thought it's just, people were asking how I was supposed to build something inside all of this water pressure. And it's actually not that hard. And this allows you to carve out an area to stick in a gas pump so that now we can pull all of the carbon dioxide out of here. Once the carbon dioxide is out of here, we should be able to dig in from this side and remove those self-contained systems. The odds of them dropping there are so slim. It's just at some point a duplicant was carrying all of those, was going through this transport tube and dropped them. And I've been using this method to basically remove gas from all of these areas. Takes a while, but you can vacuum them out. The first time I did one down here and I just tried to vacuum out a huge chunk. Not a good idea. Better just squish them up, use a little bit of bunker tiles, because bunker tiles are just as good as airflow tiles in this sort of situation. But we're going to let that do its thing. In the meantime, let's just cover some of the other weirder things. This was a bit of a problem. I kept finding water on top of this heavy watt joint plate. Like, just ignore the 2 blobs of glass there. So what was happening was the pressure was rising up so much down here because of the way of water mechanics work. Like, it just went up to 1,400 kilos of pressure. Sometimes it goes up to 2,000. So what's happening is, well, there's a weird water compression mechanic. The more water, water is supposed to only go up to about 1,000 kgs, but we have to go up to, say, about here. Yep, there's 1,000 kgs. But the more we go down, the more pressure you get. There seems to be a hard limit on how much pressure the water can get, but it does this weird bouncing thing where it starts bouncing up and down, which is causing water to pressurize in certain areas before it can spread out, which was causing this to overpressurize, which was causing blobs of water to appear there. Turns out it had nothing to do with the carbon dioxide. I thought there was carbon dioxide coming from this down here. This is like petroleum. We're burning off the petroleum generator, and at the same time, the steam from this is being harvested to be turned back into water to fed back into our liquid tank. I thought some of the natural or some of the steam was getting sucked out, so I put in filters. I've literally installed gas filters here. I can't remember the last time I threw this much power at a stupid problem. At the same time, to make sure none of the liquid escaped out of these, just in case steam ended up in there, I redid all of the gas pipes here and replaced them with insulite, as in the insulate material that's just cannot allow anything to exchange temperature. So this way, even if steam did end up in the pipes, they would never phase change in this area. But no, turns out it was actually just water pressure. So we installed another glass forge and we chucked in, well, basically 2 blobs of glass either side to make sure it didn't break. Over here, for some reason, not happening. This has never had any breaks at all or any damage done to it. No water's appeared here magically. I was actually going to put glass there, but I thought, you know what? No, it's fine. So that's the only one that hasn't caused us issues. Everywhere else, it's actually worked out fine because we're bringing in everything from the top and we're using little blobs of liquid to make sure that no pressure damage can occur. But everything else is, well, done correctly, it seems. Also, sideways ones appear to be safe also. This was a lot of learning. Now, over here, I think it's time we shut off this. This has been recirculating the water around from the bottom, but now that water is just, well, it's overflowing off the top of the map. It's a waste. I need to figure out some way of spreading that chill out. But for now, we're just going to disconnect these so we're not wasting the water. We don't want to be wasting it anymore. I think we're going to have to deconstruct all those pipes or reuse them in a different way. Maybe recirculate the water around. We could use radiant pipes, but then it's just going to add more calculations, and the game is already crashing out every couple of hours. This is going to take a little while longer to complete, and in the meantime, we're going to go up here and take care of our piping problem. Now, what we really want to happen... Oh, God, I should explain this mess, shouldn't I? Okay. Well, what was the point in cooling down our water if we were going to feed that water into oxygen and oil wells? That seemed kind of pointless. So what happens now is the fresh hot water we're pumping in, it first goes off into these water tanks. And then these water tanks, we'll come back to the radiant pipes, feed all the way down here, all the way down, and they get dumped into our electrolyzer system. And then that water keeps moving on and down and down and down and down and gets fed into the oil wells. That's literally our only water draws are these 3 oil wells and the oxygen production, which takes less than 1 pipe. So, that hot water was coming down there, but at the same time putting these tanks up here, I thought it was a great idea. Then I realized, well, the snow falls on top of them, the crushed ice. So what we've done is we've put in radiant pipes here. That means that any meteors that land here, they just melt, and then the water just dissipates into the background of space, which has meant that these trees are able to run 24/7, no worries, and we don't have to rely on their branches to actually break anything out anymore. But now what I want to do is, well, since the water tank's full, what I want to do is actually seal this all the way up to the top, and then have any of these waters, if they can't put out their water here, they instead get dumped into the background of space. Right now, we're having this bobbing up and down, and it seems wasteful, so give me a minute here. This is going to be a horrifying rejigging of the piping. I think that's all the overflows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. How many of these things we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so there's 10 overflows and I've only got 7. Wait. Nope, there's this one here. This one here is going to get rerouted a little bit. Like so. Alright, and then all we do is we stick a little liquid vent on here. What that should mean is that if that one there it can't get into the liquid tank, it'll overflow into here. Okay. If it can't get into this liquid tank, it will still try and flow into this liquid tank, and if it can't flow into that liquid tank, it'll flow into this liquid tank? You know what? Doesn't make a difference. That should be enough for that. Damn it, which ones am I missing? Oh, great, these 2. I don't have an output for those, and they are very, very, very well sealed in. This is going to be awkward. But, no. Oh, I think we can make this work. Too much effort. I'm just going to dump it into the background of space. We have... I hate to say this, but I think we have enough water. At this point, we're just going to start letting the excess overflow into the background of space. And that one there, maximum that could ever produce is 4 kilos. And normally it's much, much smaller amounts than that. What are we looking at there? Yeah, it's less than 1 kilo. Grand. Perfect. Alright, now we just gotta freeze the sucker. See, the thing is, once the water gets up to the top there and no more can fit in, it'll start overflowing into these side vents here where it'll just disappear into the background of space. Each tile can absorb 100 kgs, so yeah, all of those are going to get sucked in. I I don't think it should affect the plants too much. It will muffle some of the light. Water can block a bit of light, but I don't think there'll be enough there for long enough to cause much of an issue. And down here, we finally have our vacuum. Done. That means we can break back in here. Oh, actually, I should probably get rid of that gas. You know what? I'll get rid of the gas in a minute. First off, what we can do is... Alright, can you get in there? Just one more, come on. We need to take out that block as well. Perfect. Should be someone along shortly to pick you up. Now, one of the initial problems we had was, well, oh, there was also salt in there. What else is there? Iron ore, yeah, a bunch of stuff. And there goes the self-contained systems. Finally, that's been bugging me for a while. And... dropped him again, eh? Come on, guys. What are the odds of that? I'm not... Is there a bug somewhere with that? Well, over here, we have a small sun. Let's check what the power is. I should really hook this up to a solar power plant. Or solar, like 147,000 lux. 135,000 lux. There's a lot of lux here. Basically, there's a mod that allows you to put things, put artifacts in. The stuff you bring back from the other planets. So mangled saxophone, egg-shaped rocks, strange brick, shield generators, all those ones. And we have a lot. We have an awful lot. I have no idea at this point. In fact, the first 4 filled up, and then I had to make a bunch more just to make sure. I don't think that can get swept. You know what? Cancel the sweeping on that. We'll wall that back in again. And that takes care of that problem. See, this, we just use this gas pump to... Well, okay, we use the liquid pump to remove enough water. And once enough water was gone, I just severed the pipe. And then that frees up the gas pump to pump out the gas. If you want to make a room down here, you could do something like that. You just have to make a liquid lock first. It's pretty handy. No, don't do like I did. First time I did this, I actually put the gas pump and the liquid pump on the same level. And what happens is the gas pump will still remain flooded because there'll be a tiny little bit of water around it. And then you have to restart your game, which when it takes about 2 minutes to load, that's annoying. Or you just put it above the liquid pump and that way it ends up completely out of water and you're fine. It's something to do with if something gets flooded and there's still a tiny bit of water in it, not enough to flood it, but it's been flooded beforehand, it won't update until the game gets restarted. You have to remove all the liquid. That's why we stack them one on top of the other. All right, this guy here is going to float. You know what? Let's just release this guy. It's going to be a pain in the butt, but you get deconstructed. You have 200 kilos of carbon dioxide, which is going to float to the top of the map and probably cause issues for something somewhere. You know what? Doesn't make a difference. We'll just open up a tile to the vacuum of space somewhere and eventually it'll just go away. Now, where are you going? That is, yep, 200 kgs of carbon dioxide. I think it's going to catch there, but it might bounce. Yeah, there we go. Where are you heading? Oh, awkward positioning. Maybe. Maybe. Oh, that's actually perfect. It's going to land in that one single tile. No, never mind. It ended up over here. Damn it. Well. Awkward. You know what? We can get rid of it, though. We'll just put 2 tiles there. That means that will be connected to that, which will then be connected to that, which will allow the gas to flow up there. Done. Another option... Oh, we could connect it down here and let it flow at this section. I'm just not bothered. Thing is, we can leave these in place. It's still going to be another few hundred cycles because I've got to leave this run overnight to try and freeze it now. At this point, I think we've taken care of most of the minor stuff, and we're not pumping water over here anymore. So I think just turn the refrigeration to the max and just let it go. I was initially worried about these petroleum locks freezing, but then I thought if the water's frozen, who cares? It's not like the water's going to be able to break in anymore because the water will be a solid block. However, there is 1 or 2 things we might want to take care of. How much insulite do we have? We have 383 tons of insulite. A lot of insulite. That's because of the rockets. Oh my god. We have another 22 tons of isoresin lying around the place. We have 1.6 tons of fullerene. And we have 26.7 tons of niobium. That's because the rockets don't stop. They just keep going and going and going. And even though we've got only a few cargo rockets going, they've just been strip mining planets for an eternity. They don't stop. In fact, where did we stockpile all the resources? Ah, yes, right here. So how much we got there? Yeah, as you can see, we've got butt tons of refined carbon, coal, all sorts of stuff that came out of those rockets, none of which we need. The only thing that's still going down is salt. So now that we filled up the planets, I think we can stop salting a few areas. For example, the cool slush geyser and the polluted water vent. This is geotuned 3 times. This is geotuned 4 times. We're just going to turn those off. They're the only thing, like once they're turned off, the only thing getting it will be salt water vents, which, as far as I can tell, produce enough salt to feed themselves. So I'm going to turn those off. It looks like the water's causing pressure damage here. I think what's happening is the water's kind of scooching over to the left side of the map from the right. This appears to have dropped a bit, so the water's either bobbing down and pushing up that direction somehow, and that's pressurizing the steel. That's probably why we're losing a little bit of water into the background of space. This is a totally aquatic colony. It's basically Subnautica, but in Oni. Oh, yep, there we go. Yeah, there was definitely a bit of. Oh, wow. I have never seen that happen before. Or have I? You know what? That looks pretty cool. That was weirdly hypnotic. I don't know what that was. Eh, in the background there, we've started the freezing. This is the problem I have with freezing stuff. This is why we've been rotating the water for as long as we did. I probably should have rotated it for longer, but let's just look over here. This stuff is minus 27 to minus 29. Minus 19, minus 18, minus 20. Like, that's minus 21, that ice. And the adjacent tile to it is minus 3. That's the problem with ice. It's just its thermal conductivity is turbo. Whatever it is. Yeah, thermal conductivity 2.18, whatever. Thermal conductivity of water is worse, but water moves between tiles and they end up exchanging heat quite a lot, which is why water tends to even out a lot easier. This is again why I was holding out, putting us to the freezing point, and why I was rotating around the water so much. This, yeah, we're just gonna have to start this up and let it run. Let it run and run and run. That centerpiece is gonna take the longest. One of the little things we did as well, I was asked, why am I using supercoolant here? Why not just use oil or some of the other things? Well, if we freeze everything to minus 250 degrees, at some point this ice will get cold enough to turn the oil that would be in there into debris. And then if we ever melted the whole map, which, okay, honestly, that's not going to happen. But I'm trying to prep for every possible scenario. If we melted the map, what would happen is the ice would cool down, but it wouldn't get a touch to the debris, and the debris would stay there, and eventually all the ice would melt, and then you might get pressure damage here because the debris wouldn't have turned back into oil in time. Now, I know I'm overthinking things, but, you know, you got to be like 100% prepared for possibly anything. That's also, well, another option we had for cooling was to put everything and compress it down into one corner, and then after compressing it all down into one corner by using a like just basically sort of a waterfall trick to compress all the water down, we could then let it explode all back out again. Unfortunately, it always goes up. It just basically would shoot straight up, and very little goes out to the side. But that might actually work with all the airflow tiles. So I'm pretty sure it would smash through that tile there. That would need reinforcement before we can even think about doing that. But so far, everything else seems to be holding up. Oh, and this is one of those little vacuum seals I'm very proud of. It's basically visco-gel airlock, liquid lock, and then we put in a gas pump to remove those 2 tiles of pressure. And this stops the water outside from exchanging temperature with the water inside. It was like 60, 70 degrees when I started these, or whatever. It was hot enough that it was causing problems at the start. So now this place is entirely insulated from the outside temperature. Well, be it temperature shift plate. No, temperature insulated tiles, basically. I should really replace those airflow tiles. I got rid of those airflow tiles because I wanted to get rid of gas leaks. Like we did the same thing over here. That's vacuum. And I replaced them with these bunker tiles. I could replace them in airflow, but I figured these things are close enough to the top of the map. They would never have pressure problems. Somehow the mesh tiles are getting airflow damage. How? Like, how are you getting pressure damage? Your mesh tiles. You can't. The water just. I think there was just something happened because there was tiles there beforehand. I might have to do a quick reload to stop that from happening again. You guys can all be replaced. The reason we're putting these down is to prevent meteors from just, well, plowing down and releasing loads of gas on their way to the bottom of the map. We don't really care about the meteors dropping off ice. Ice is fine. Water we can deal with. The gases might cause issues. The ice is continuing to grow, but slowly, and there's massive temperature differentials going on there. If we make that say relative temperature, and then move it to the really cold section, you'll see there that it's just, yeah, ice is terrible at spreading out the temperature compared to water. It's not even close. All right. Oh, yes, a little bit of a post-mortem on some of the things that went on, namely this design. I really like it. Okay, this whole tacked on top thing is a yoke, but this whole bottom bit here, it's a decent sized sour gas boiler. Okay, it's way too complicated and requires way too much fancy materials to make, but it's a reasonable sized sour gas boiler that produces more power than most normal bases are ever going to need, and it's actually pretty good. I like it. A little bit of pain in the butt to build again, a little bit finicky to start, but once it started, I've left this on for ages now. This has not been switched off in a really long time. Works just fine, as long as you keep feeding it plastic. Yes, I would use that design again, if I could remember how to make it. I'd have to come back and actually load up the save and be like, wait, what is half this stuff for? Why did I do this? Like, I'm pretty sure there's some dead bits and bobs in there that I moved around to, like, I disconnected some automation. Yeah, there was learning process, all of which I have promptly forgotten because it took so long to fill the map with water. Yes, geothermal. This new geothermal heat pump thing, actually pretty cool. Like you can use it to generate power and filter your polluted water, your salt water, that kind of stuff. You just chuck it in there. You lose a little bit in the process, but it's honestly such a small amount, it really doesn't matter. And setting them up this way just gives you a whole bunch of sustainable power. Like these provided the bulk of the power for our base until we got into sour gas and petroleum boiling and all that. Like these are pretty handy. And if you set up three, I'm sure it'd be even easier. Little bit of a wonky piping setup, but we've managed to load balance everything to make sure everything was used in equal amounts. And even if we do run out of inputs for it, we're recycling some water. I probably could have cut off a few liquid tanks on this. I was a little bit paranoid. I think about 2 liquid tanks would be more than sufficient as reserves for each pipeline. So like 10 tons of liquid behind this. Yep, no problems at all. No, and in case you forgot, because yes, it was a long time ago, these two separate instances of the 5 steam turbines hooked up to the geo vent, all of them actually feed their output water. They feed it out and back around and right back into the system here. So what happens is if you don't have any fresh inputs to go into the geothermal generator from your polluted water vents, your salt water vents, whatever, it will keep recycling the water round and round again. However, it's not infinite. This you actually lose some water coming out of these when you put it in. You lose some of the water. Instead, you get out some mass material, salt, a bunch of other random stuff. So you do need to keep injecting some fresh water to keep it going, but it's not a lot, and the amount of power it generates is substantial. Yes, really like them as an addition to give you a few options. Oh yeah, this guy over here. Yep, this is pretty much a standard issue liquid oxygen, liquid hydrogen build. Nice square. Yeah, I do like my square designs. Traditional for me. These things, yeah, I still don't like these hot steam vents. We could overclock these to get even more heat out of them if you wanted. There's like things you could do, but for honestly, for the amount of water involved, it's usually never worth it. Like if you're that desperate for water, you're probably just going to tap into like a cool steam vent or well any other water source on the map. These things are like I feel like these are left over from the very start of the game when there was very few water sources. But it is very rare that anyone is that desperate for water that they'll ever bother tapping into one of these. This thing's big, chunky, but I mean it does the job. I suppose it's faster than cooling it. Yeah, gold volcano tamers. They work just as good as always. This never overheated. It did its job. We have 1,000 tons. Yes, 1,000 tons of gold. This is the richest colony on ever. Main core base. Oh god, there's so much dumb stuff here. I replaced a bunch of the flooring with diamond. In fact, let's replace some more of this with diamond. Reason being, we put in a bunch of those pedestals and I chucked down a bunch of decor items and things like that to help with the leaves. Wasn't actually necessary, but I thought I'd do it anyway, just for funsies. Kitchen, pretty bog standard. The cooling loop for it has an interesting journey. This cooling loop, I ripped out the one that was running on Nectar. Yeah, I got rid of the Nectar version and I replaced it with supercoolant for just more efficiency. Took over 5 tons of supercoolant to get this sucker running, but this whole loop here is set to minus 34 or 33? 34. Cold enough that's actually causing viscogel in the local area to freeze. Oopsie. But anyway, it goes around and I have it go up and through this here. This weight plate. This is the whole reason I switched over to supercoolant is I had the Nectar going through this and the Nectar was... I had to use a gold pipe here because otherwise it was exchanging too much temperature. And since that was providing cooling for our food, I was paranoid about it. So once I switched over to supercoolant, I switched this for a thermium radiant pipe. And now we're providing so much cooling to this, it's actually gone from, I think it was about 24 degrees when I started, it's now 18.9 C, we've dropped the temperature of this plate, and pretty much everything on it, I'd say, is well cooled. Not like everything, but they've all been cooled down from whatever heights they were at. When you put so much mass on one tile, the temperature exchange gets all sorts of funky. The game has difficulty managing it. But if you keep applying cooling, I almost tried to sweep our entire stockpile. That would have been awkward. Yeah, if you tried applying cooling to several hundred tons of mass, it has some weird interactions. It just... Oh, why are you waking up all the time? Did I? I did, didn't I? Yeah. I put in a diamond floor beneath here, and the light from the gate below is waking them up. Sorry. Anyone else having Ooh. You know what? Let's just put a wooden tile there. It'll be fine. I think everyone's safe now from my stupidity. Whoops. This is leftover from when we were running our entire base on Oxide. Good times. Would not recommend, still prefer using the electrolyzer setups, assuming you've got a planet warm enough for liquid water. One thing I've been sticking everywhere is magma lamps. We have so many artifacts. We have 156 magma lamps left. I used all the plasma lamps, the moon, self-contained, the egg-shaped, and the double helix. They're the strongest ones. We got 156 magma lamps left. We're up to 190, I think, when I started. 208 percolators filled with opaku, 220 prime fossils, 200 egg-shaped, 180 stethoscopes, 320 bioluminescent rocks. I should really put those on a solar panel, but we don't need the power. Shield generators, 200 of them. Robots, arms, bricks, like just hundreds. We only had one sandstone rock, though. No idea why. 436 obelisks and 400 moldavite. That's... Yes, we have stupid amounts of artifacts. That's why we installed that mod, so that we could store them all in smart storage bins, which is just much better. This worked out just fine. This is basically just reed fiber farming. We have so much of it, and this was so that we could get plastic Dracos, which we also have too many of. We never needed any of them because we're actually producing enough plastic from the trees we have up in space. I had to shut down the shearing stations. Problems were encountered. Turns out, if you have so many plastic Dracos that need shearing, what'll happen is the duplicate will come along, and once the game gets late enough and laggy enough, it seems to overwrite all their needs. So they won't stop so long as there's stuff to shear until something interrupts them. And that interruption is usually caused by them peeing in their suit. That's how I got alerted multiple times that someone had an accident in their suit. They had all the way to get in and out, but it turns out once they started shearing, they just couldn't stop. They got in the zone, and there's no end of shearing in sight. There's just so many Dracos. 143 critters, all needing to be sheared. Then what happened is I left it run overnight one time, and when I came back, we had 2 dead duplicates. Turns out what happened is, when they lagged out, they forgot to pick up a suit on their way out, and because they couldn't get a suit on the way out, well, that caused them problems considering the atmosphere is all hydrogen in here. So in an all hydrogen atmosphere, they couldn't breathe. However, they were busy shearing. So they sheared until they suffocated to death and died. 2 of them. One after another. No, I'm not telling you the names of the duplicates. I'm not going to name and shame them. But I reloaded the save. Plus, it only ran for about 2 hours that night before it crashed out. So, fine. I lost the footage. But yeah, at that point, I did disable the shearing stations. I'm not willing to lose duplicates to a bug like that. I mean, okay, if I lose them, that's my stupidity and my fault. I get it. But I'm not letting the game kill them because it has a bug where if it's too much stuff going on and too many Dracos to shear, duplicates will literally work themselves to death. Oh, yeah. This design, I still like it. Works really well, does its job. The whole one-way throughput system is not amazing. I feel like this could be simplified a bit if I spent more time and effort working on it. But at this point, no. I have spent so many hours on this map just taking care of all these little minor side projects and things. Now, power requirements. Yeah. Okay, the problem I started to run into was more just a case of, well, cooling down all of the steam in here while simultaneously cooling down all of this water. And the steam turbines only have so much cooling potential in them before they cause problems. And the more aquatuners we throw in here, well, the hotter these rooms become, which means they draw less heat from this side. In fact, I'm pretty sure this thing is this injecting heat into... You know what? Doesn't matter. I actually opened up some of these just to dump raw water in so that we could improve the cooling potential. It was getting too hot in here with all the aquatuners we were sticking in. So it wasn't just a case of power that was the problem. This thing's drawing... it's got a potential load of 50 kilowatts. That's when I just stopped. There's too many aquatuners in here drawing too much power. I left it. We also have a lot of gas pumps that are required for filling all of these command or these steam rockets. None of it would, it just, no, too much power. So this is literally its own separate power grid. Actually, it's not split there, it's split further up here. Its own separate power grid. We have disconnected it from the rest of the power grid down here, which is now actually frozen. Oops. But yes, this was, there was some recommendations that I say just throw on more aquatuners, and I really wanted to. It's just a case of between the overloading on the lines, the amount of heat we weren't draining out of this tunnel that needed to be dealt with. It just, come on, it was 24 aquatuners just on cooling this side. Never mind all the other aquatuners we're using to cool down all the steam turbines. It just, I have never drawn this much power. I am more than happy to throw power at a problem, but this was just, we were throwing a lot of power at it already. This is the second grid. I probably could have switched this into a second grid all on its own and run more aquatuners in it, maybe. But then you start getting up towards the top of the map where you have to work with background plates. It gets really awkward dealing with places with background plates because if I ever remove them, it causes the water to escape into the background of space. So it's just, I just gave up around that point. I'm like, you know what? There is enough of them. The only reasons there's not more down here is these are actually drawing out water and I can't place aquatuners in there because it would cause too much overheating. So the only places that don't have aquatuners are ones like this, where the water's flowing in directly, or ones where there's already an aquatuner in it. All the rest, they've got aquatuners in them. We didn't leave any empty spots. See, look, empty area already has an aquatuner, empty area, or free area, two aquatuners, two aquatuners. This one here is the only one, and that's only the only reason I stopped here is because there's background plates. I don't want to start messing around with those because if we accidentally remove any of those background plates, you do steam and it gets all sorts of complications. I think there wasn't enough, but there was as many as I was willing to put in. And then comes the final thing that gets suggested so many times. Run a supercoolant loop across the top of this rocket chimney to cool down the steam, so that none of it escapes and it will all drop to the bottom of the silo. It will. It'll all drop to the bottom of the silo, but in dropping to the bottom of the silo, it will exchange heat. It'll turn into droplets, and those droplets will exchange heat with all the steam as they pass. And that steam will all cool down. All of it. So by the time the water gets down there, it'll keep dropping and going back up and dropping and going back up because as it drops down, it'll exchange heat until eventually it turns back into steam until eventually it drops all the way down, at which point there's no steam in any of this tunnel, which means all of the steam turbines will shut off. All of them. With no steam turbines, it means the only power we will have left will be these five here, this petroleum boiler, and these ones here. That will not be enough power to run 22 aquatuners. Not even close. And I'm not even sure 22 aquatuners can cool this down. We won't be cooling down water from, say, 95 degrees to 100 or to 0 degrees. We'll be cooling down steam from 240 C. And you have to imagine a bunch of the steam's already been cooled by passing by all of these cooling devices. So it won't be 200 degrees. It's going to be 400 degrees, something like that. We'll have to kill like 3-4 times as much heat. It will be crippling. The power requirements, just trying to imagine running 22 aquatuners and provide your base on top of that just to provide, it's not possible. I mean, maybe it is. I just don't think there's enough power on this map without the steam turbine tunnel or without the rocket chimney to power it. We'd probably need 40 or 50. I mean, it'd be a fun thing to fire up in debug mode and test out. But no, I already have too much piping. So much piping. There was a mention on the Reddit thread. Oh yeah, I made it. I made a Reddit thread sort of as a little bit of trolling, saying I think it was I'm using 18 aquatuners to cool down my water tank, but it doesn't seem to be going very fast. Well, I thought it'd be a little funny, you know, like people will look at it and go, he's doing something wrong if 18 aquatuners aren't cooling down a water tank, and then they get to see the size of the water tank and go, oh, okay, never mind. Yeah, this guy is just being an ass. And then so many people responded really nicely. And I was like, oh, damn it. They put in all this time and effort. And it's like, yeah, I suck at trolling. I felt so guilty. I was like, okay, I'm going to have to try some of those scenarios. Yes, to answer a few of those questions from the Reddit thread, I'm not going to put in temperature shift plates because when they get entombed, they start putting up those weird things. I should have got rid of those transit tube crossings. So you end up with all of these little entomb symbols and the little red symbols coming out of it. I don't like that. Putting them all the way across the map. I suppose we could pretty much put in temperature shift plates made of wood everywhere to help spread the chill. But then they're all entombed and it looks nasty and mean. Or just not nice. At the same time, yes, this is going to take an eternity. There was questions as to why I was setting this to 0 degrees. And it was just, well, I didn't want the ice to start forming. Once the ice started forming, it would mess up the pump system. And I figured we had so much cooling going on and circulation, it was probably the fastest way to spread the chill out. It's not like the pumps are off for very long. Actually, let's check one of you here. How are you doing? It should be 98% uptime. Yep. There's no, I've checked these before. There's 98% uptime on all of these for the last 5 cycles. It's kind of ridiculous. Let's check this one. I'm pretty sure this one has never shut off ever in its entire lifetime. Its lifetime is 2043 cycles. I've been trying to cool down that water tank for 2000. Yeah, I need a different hobby. Okay. I still keep printing out critters and then I keep relocating them. I should have put in an automated system for this a while ago, but you know, you get lazy and then you end up being so lazy it ends up causing you more work. Oh, we have too much meat. We have 14 million calories of souffle. But what happened to the meat, guys? Has Where's the barbecue? How did barbecue go down to 389,000 calories? Um, how do we have 29,000 tons of wait? That's 29 tons of polluted dirt. The barbecue just. I have no idea how all the barbecue ended up there. Right? That makes no sense. We had so much barbecue. Never mind. 14 million souffle pancakes. 14 million raw eggs. I'm pretty sure something's broken down somewhere, but we've still got 36 million calories. I think we'll be fine. Unless the game glitches out or does something again. Okay, I think that's our final update on the liquid tank map. I might leave this run a little bit in the background just to spread out that ice a bit. I'd like that ice to get all the way up to, say, about there. Just to sort of freeze it in. I think whatever the ice is doing, it's causing weird fluctuations in the water because the water has actually bulged up there a bunch and sort of dissipated a bit into the background of space. That's fine. We got plenty more water flowing in to fill in the gaps. I don't think water's a good problem this map is ever going to have. But anyway, that's enough waffle. I think we're finally done with this water map. I'm going to cut this out here. I hope you enjoyed it. Good luck.